I want to share my story with you about how I unexpectedly moved to Texas within a 3 weeks notice, and I was blessed to live rent free by a complete stranger. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Robin Norwood, and I want to share my story with you all about how I moved to Texas in August of last year, 2024, unexpectedly. And I was blessed by a complete stranger. And the thing that blew my mind the most, in the best way, is that it was actually an answered prayer. So I'm going to get right into it. Last year, I was going through a lot of difficulty with being able to land gainful employment. And actually, I'm going to take it a little further. I lived in Georgia for about 16 years, and I apologize for the sound quality of this video. There's an echo. I'm sorry, but just bear with me. I understand that the quality of the content is more important than the video itself, but I'm working on that, so y'all bear with me. So for about 16 years, kind of on and off, I was going through a lot of instability with having a job that was, substantial, where the income was substantial. So I was always getting jobs. At one point, I had 10 jobs in 10 years, just back and forth with that. Jobs making a little bit of money, just very unstable in regard to that, income. The most stable that I had been was when I was running my own business or businesses, because I had launched a couple over that span of time. So fast forward to last year, I had just got to the point where I said, Lord, I am tired of this job search and just everything. And I said, I need you to help me. Like, I need direction on where I'm supposed to be in my life, where you want me to be, where you want me to go. What am I supposed to be doing? What do you want me to be doing with my time? It seems like I keep applying for these jobs and going on these interviews and all this, and no breakthrough is really coming, right? Or hasn't come. And so I was living in an apartment in Georgia, and I had ended up getting this apartment. This is in a city that I really wanted to live in since I had moved to Georgia. And I said, I'm going to live in that city one day. Well, I ended up living in that city, and I ended up taking on rent that was almost $2,000 a month. At the time I took it on, I didn't have that monthly. But I had also said, well, I'm going to move out of my parents' house in March. I think I said March of 2024. I think it was last year. And I did. I moved out. Somebody called me, a friend of mine. She said, my mom is leaving her apartment. Are you looking? As a matter of fact, she said, do you know someone who's looking for a place to stay? I was like, yeah, me. Because I was looking to branch out into having my own place again. I had even talked to a therapist about it. I was like, I want to have my own space that I can make my own. And being a grown woman, you want that. No issues at home. Living with my parents. Big house. I was welcome there. Didn't have to pay rent and all that, but I still wanted that freedom. And I know a lot of y'all would be like, nah. But anyway, the door opened because my friend called me and she said, do you know anybody who's looking for a place? And I said, well, me. And one thing led to the other. And she said her mom was actually moving out of her place. So I ended up taking up her mom's lease. And oh my goodness, I went through it. Okay, once I got in that apartment. with trying to keep the rent paid and everything. And I had wonderful friends and support and all of that, and they helped me for quite some time. But it had gotten to a point where I said, Lord, I thought that this was a blessing. I thought this was what you wanted me to have, because I had prayed for it. I wanted to live in this city. I wanted it to be this particular area that I'm in this city. I wanted pretty much everything that living in this particular area brought with it, and I wanted to move out in the month that this door opened. I said it really seemed like it was you. But fast forward, I ended up losing my job, and I tried to do some other things to kind of make ends meet. Well, it ended up falling apart. So here I am. I go back to the Lord, and I'm like, Father, I need you to help me. What do you want me to do? Where am I supposed to go? Where do you want me to live? And I ended up going online and applying for a position. Y'all, I don't even remember what led me there. I just ended up applying for a position with a nonprofit organization. And I was working in food insecurity. I would be working in food insecurity in this position, dealing with food insecurity in Texas. And so I applied for it, and then I spoke over it. I said, very simple. I basically declared that position was going to be mine, right? And I waited, and then I got a message that there were 3 people, I think, in the running for the position to get hired. One of them fell off or changed her mind or something. And then the other one was being considered, but she didn't end up getting chosen. I ended up being chosen for that position. And so I was hired. Only thing is, I said, okay. And so, only thing is, I had made no preparations to be moving out of the apartment I was in. I knew I had to go. I knew I had to go somewhere else. And there wasn't an eviction or anything because it was a lease. I took up a what do they call it? You take up someone else's lease. It was mainly an agreement between myself and that particular lady. And so, to put it in a nutshell, I had about 3 weeks from when I got hired to having to move to Texas to live there, because this was an on-site position. So I went to praying again. I said, Father, you know my situation. And I said, look, I have never asked you about Texas. I didn't think about Texas. I wasn't planning on moving to Texas or anything like that. But here I am. I was hired for this position. Is this what you want me to do? And I prayed. I said, Lord, I believe you want me to have this position, but you know I don't have anywhere to live. And then this is the next prayer that I prayed, specifically because I believe in praying specific prayer. And I said, Lord, I do not want to have to pay rent. So allow me the opportunity. It went something like this. I believe it was bolder than this though, because I had just like flat out made a declaration. But I said, allow me to have the opportunity to live with my supervisor, because here's the other thing. I didn't know anybody in Texas, especially not the part I was going to. I have an aunt and an uncle who lived in another city in Texas. But we weren't that close, so I wasn't thinking right away, oh, we're going to just live with them. I said, Lord, since I don't know anybody, especially in this area, this county I'm going into, allow me to live with my supervisor. And I said, also, Lord, I decree and declare that I will not have to pay any rent. It'll be for free. That is exactly what happened. And the way that it happened, my supervisor, she wasn't my supervisor at the moment. I had just been hired, right? She just ran. I said, do you know of any apartments in the area? I said, do you know? I said, I've never been to Texas. I don't know anything, nothing. I said, I'm just going, right? We didn't even talk about that whole thing about my housing. She just said, oh, you can just come live with me. I said, because I never asked her if I could live with her. Didn't know her situation. But she said, she brought it up. She said, you can just come live with me and don't worry about rent. I said, are you serious? Are you sure I don't have to pay utilities or anything? She said, oh, okay, well, there's a water bill. If you'd like to pay that, you can pay that. It was $72 a month. And folks, that's how I got to Texas. A complete stranger, very kind woman, 70 years old, brought me into her home, and she did not charge me a dime for an entire year for rent or any utilities outside of that water bill that was $72 a month. And so that's what I gave her. She would also give me money and gift cards and all that kind of stuff while I was living with her. And then I later found out she is very well known in the county that we lived in for her kindness, hospitality, and just all around, all American goodness toward people. And that is the person that God calls me to come in contact with, to be a blessing to me. And he gave me favor through this, and I won't say her name on the video, but if you ever see this video, you know who I'm talking to. I'm so grateful for you for giving me an opportunity to have a new start in my life and doing something that is just so extremely unheard of. Because who allows a total stranger to live with them rent-free with no catch to it? Y'all, there was no catch. None. No catch. She lived by herself. She'd been in that house 40-something years. Very simple, frugal lady. Gave me my own room and everything. And that's what I did. I drove all the way to Texas by myself. Took me 20 hours to get there. Don't ask me why. That's a whole nother video. I think Texas is about a 13-hour drive from Georgia. Took me about 20 hours because I was dealing with a lot of resistance getting there. And I took the scenic route. But that's how I got to Texas. I was hired. I did not have a place to live. And God answered my prayers. So I hope that simple testimony of how God's provision showed up for me encourages you. And I want to add this to it. Do not worry about anything in your life. When you belong to God, He has got your back. Trust me, He's got your back. So that's the end of this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video message. And leave me a comment in the chat box because I would love to dialogue with you. And I want to hear your good news and your testimonies too. As a matter of fact, if you have experienced anything similar to this, I'd love to hear about it. Y'all stay tuned. I have some wonderful news to share with you coming up. Maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll see. I'll definitely be checking back in to let you know. But until next time, y'all have a wonderful day and stay blessed. Bye-bye.